What if all of your messaging could be so clear and concise that you would attract your most preferred ideal client every single time? Hi, and welcome back. And today's video is about us. No, it's about your About Us section. And what a great opportunity for you to shine. So one of the biggest places that you should spend a lot of time is on your About Us section. And I'm going to tell you how and why in this video. Now, don't forget to subscribe because I provide valuable content for startups and small businesses in all of my website series and all of my YouTube series, actually. And if you subscribe, you'll be notified when I launch new content that will help you grow your business online. So subscribe. And please, if you're a startup, let me know in the bottom. Don't be afraid to link to your website. I'd love to go check it out, and I'm sure other people would love to see what you've been up to as well. So leave a comment in the bottom, and also any thumbs up or recommendations you might have for my video channel. Would love to hear them. Without further ado, let's go talk about the About Us section. I'm going to give you things that you can do to make an effective About Us page. And the first thing that I want you to focus on, since you're a startup, is really think about the personalization of your brand. In order to do this, you really need to know who your ideal client is. And this is something that businesses struggle with quite regularly. Why? Because it's really hard to identify just one ideal client. But when you're in the startup phase or when you're a small business, it's really good to try and hone in on who it is exactly that you want to dedicate your messaging to. Check out this company, Band. Look at what a creative and personalized About Us page they have. They tell us what they do, they briefly point out their services, but most importantly, they showcase their work. Imagine this is a very specific demographic of people who will hire them, or they'll at least inquire. And they've put a great call to action here at the bottom. Not too obvious. I'd make it a little more clear and concise, but they're hoping that they've really grabbed you on this page. I personally think they've done a great job. So the first thing I want you to do is create a really succinct ideal client. And if you don't know how to do that, I've created a video on that as well. It'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you subscribe. But the personalization of your website will be speaking to that person. And this is super important to get your message across and to let them know exactly what it is that you have to offer for them. Next, why don't you consider your brand's mission and values? Essentially, that's telling your customers and your ideal clients where it is that you plan on going with your business and what's the value behind using your service or buying your product. These guys do a really good job of talking about their values as a company. They're goal-driven, they think of clients as partners, they're unapologetically transparent. These are all values and really points of differentiation for them. Although a lot of companies may have these, they don't really showcase it as well as this company does. And these are very important pieces of information to provide to your customers to let them know exactly what it is you have to offer. This is also a great place for you to differentiate yourself amongst your competitors. Having a strong value proposition really helps you elaborate on your brand's personality. And that brings us back again to the personalization of your brand. The About Us section is just as much about you as it is about your customer. So what is it that you have to offer your customer? And why is that so important? Because it gives you one more chance to differentiate yourself amongst the competition. And that is such a busy competitive world out there. You need to nail this one and really talk to your customer in a way that they're going to understand, which is why it's so important to understand your ideal client. I absolutely love this About Us page. The story of Alfred. They talk a lot about their story, how they founded it, and they go on to talk about why it's great for you, the customer. They do an amazing job of telling their story in a way that's compelling to the end user. They're really focused on their ideal client here. It's awesome. When you have a chance, go check it out. Our story, Alfred. You noticing how everything here is intertwined? It's because really what you're doing is you're building a story on your About Us page. And since your About Us section is kind of like writing a story, don't be afraid to incorporate pictures in there. Pictures are actually processed 60,000 times faster than text. But be careful, because people can interpret images in different ways. So make sure that the images that you choose are in fact telling the message that you want to tell. I've seen it before. where it hasn't really worked out. Now, some people think that keeping your About Us section at under 500 words is probably the best. And if you're incorporating images into that, that's totally great. Why don't you do that? Incorporate some images, incorporate some text. Under 500 words is great. Kitty's Cakes does an awesome job of portraying their story. As you can see, there's minimal words, and they use imagery to portray a lot of their messaging. Images, icons, it's adorable. You can really get a sense of their personality, of who they are. They've done a really good job with their About Us page. And don't forget, in previous videos, I've talked about keywords and keyword phrases. Don't forget to incorporate those into your About Us section and make sure that they flow and they're fluid so that they're not misunderstood as being planted keywords and key phrases. What else makes for a great About Us page? Testimonials, of course. Even if you only have one, or even if you have to go and scrounge for one, it is super important to get those in there and put those in your About Us page. This is social proof. This is an opportunity for people to see that others have used your business and have enjoyed it, or your product and liked it, and the testimonial is right there. Another great opportunity on the About Us page is to really get in there and tell your personal story or introduce your team. For solopreneurs, it's a great opportunity to be able to tell your story. On my About Us page, I've included a video to talk about my personal story. And the reason that I've done this is I really want to connect with you. I want to connect with the person who is on my About Us page trying to find out more about who I am, what I do, and what I have to offer. And it's a great opportunity for a startup especially to get your message across in a way that emotionally resonates with somebody. So don't be afraid to incorporate video into your About Us section. In fact, it'll do wonders for interlinking. So if your video is hosted on a YouTube page and then you've embedded it on your About Us page, that's great for your search engine rankings. It's really important on your About Us page to not have them lost in words and not have them lost in context, and to always make sure you're linking them to where you want them to go next. For product-based businesses, it's good sometimes to add some products in there to encourage them to go back to the shopping section. For e-commerce businesses, same thing. For service-based businesses, encourage them to reach out for a consultation or a service call or schedule your appointment. And these are all call to actions that you'll want to have on your About Us page. It's also an awesome opportunity to include a pop-up or redirect them to input their email address. So these are just some top elements to keep in mind for a fantastic About Us page. Get creative. Don't be boring and status quo. Let this be a place to show your personality and to shine. And if you don't know who your ideal client is, I strongly suggest that you subscribe so that you can be ready for my ideal client video that I'll be posting in the next few weeks. And thank you so much for following along. And don't forget, the only one who's stopping you is you. Go get 'em.